Lightning now below 500 at home this season, and more key players are injured. Why not? It's how the season's gone. We'll dive in on today's Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Tampa Bay Lightning podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. As always, we want to begin with a shout out to our everydayers. Those of you who tune into every single show, every single day, we love you and we appreciate the support you give us week in, week out. I'm Nick Morgan, and I am joined by the Emily Cratchit to my Bob Cratchit, Greg Stephen. Greg, welcome in, my friend.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Friday to everyone. Tough loss last night. A lot of surprises in this one for me.
You know what's not surprising? More players are hurt.
I was going to say more injuries.
Why not? Anthony Cirelli leaves the game after a hit we'll dive into in a little bit coming up. Brandon Hagel was out, like we talked about yesterday, still reeling from that hit suffered in the Florida game. And just for good measure, Nikita Kucherov is on the official roster for the game, and at the very last minute does not play. We heard he suffered some kind of illness. Sure, why not? Let's just keep piling them on here. That, and on top of that, Greg, a 2-1 loss to the LA Kings that puts the Lightning below 500 at home for the season, while considering Benchmark International is one of the toughest places to play. A lot to dive into on today's show. Before we get into it, I want to mention today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, Greg, here we are. It's another Lightning loss.
Yeah.
2-1 to the LA Kings. There's more injuries. It sounds like we might have some Anthony Cirelli question marks now. And you know, we hear it's an illness and nothing serious, but let's also say Nikita Kucherov is dealing with some sort of holiday bug. We learned that Brandon Hagel is probably going to be out for at least until after the holiday break. Are we cursed?
I mean, man, it feels like it. It feels like you and I have cursed this team. But
well, don't say we.
It feels like it. I feel like every time we talk about it, there's another one, you know? I almost feel like we should just never mention it again.
Yeah. I think we should just do like a recap and be like, yeah, Dominic James looked pretty solid last night.
Yeah, look, the injuries are tough. I think we'll dive into the Cirelli hit a little later, but yeah, to not have Cooch play in this one is brutal. I think as soon as I saw that he wasn't going to start here, I was kind of like, uh-oh. That's not so good. And then we found out Hagel wasn't playing, obviously, because I think initially he was a game time decision. But yeah, I mean, it was noticeable. I thought it was very noticeable. And then once Cirelli leaves, it's really, really noticeable. Because you see a lot of Dominic, James, and Gage Goncalves out there. And actually, I thought they looked pretty good. Yeah. To be honest with you.
And you know what? I thought they looked pretty good. Yeah. That's a phrase that I think could apply to kind of this whole game, Greg.
Yeah.
Let's dive in a little bit. The LA Kings win 2-1. It starts off good for the Lightning. 1-0 halfway through the first period. Oliver Bjorkstrand gets a power play goal. Something we definitely want to see. Both A, Bjorkstrand stepping up and contributing on the score sheet a little bit more, and B, a power play goal. Those were both keys to the game we talked about yesterday. Second period, the Kings take the lead. Adrian Kempe scores twice to make it 2-1. And then just absolutely great goaltending from Anton Forsberg in the Kings side last night. The Kings have had good goaltending all season from Darcy Kemper. Anton Forsberg gets the start and absolutely shuts the door with some really good saves down the stretch. Lightning couldn't really get anything going. It winds up being a 2-1 final score. And like I said, Greg, I know like in the post game, the mood is a little bit dour. Well, and I know, the Lightning players are like, we didn't have the killer instinct. We need to, make it a little bit tougher for them, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at the stats and I'm going back and looking at the play, and there's a lot of boxes checked that you want to see from the Lightning.
Yeah.
They absolutely dominated possession. They outshot the Kings 32-20. And I think the Lightning had, around 70 total shot attempts on goal, or just shot attempts.
Right.
Which is perfect. They only had one penalty the entire game, so they only gave up one power play opportunity. They were careful with the puck. They controlled their giveaways. It's just one of those things where you look at it and it's like, I don't necessarily see where the Lightning could have done immensely better. Are we content with saying like this was just the Lightning falling victim to a really good goaltending performance?
It's a great question. I think while the score sheet doesn't reflect a ton of giveaways in this one, I think you're right. They were mostly strong with the puck. There were a few plays where you got to be better with the puck. I mean, there were some turnovers that I was kind of like, what are we doing here? Yeah. Specifically that I can recall, like I think it was about 17:29 left in the second. Braden Point, he tried to enter the offensive zone and kind of coughed up the puck right at the blue line and almost led to a breakaway. Luckily, he got back, got the puck. Then he gets in his own defensive zone, tries to make a big pass up to the left wing, intercepted instantly, comes back the other way. And it's just like, I think Pointer's been great. I think he was great in this game. But small plays like that, a couple shifts here and there where you just see them kind of cough up the puck and it looks a little dangerous. And who else did? Dominic James had a couple as well. Yeah. Where I looked at it and I was like, man, you got to watch out, because I think he turned one over to Kempe, or was it Kempe? He turned one over to Byfield at one point, and Byfield he basically had a breakaway. Luckily, Vasi had shut the door at the pad, but yeah, just a couple turnovers there where, look, there might not have been a lot of them, but the ones they did turn over were questionable for sure. Yeah. That would be my minus if I had to give you one.
Okay. All right. So that's a good minus to start. Mm-hmm. Let's get to pluses, Greg, because there was on the other side so many good things I think we talk about this game. And a plus for me is the return of Ryan McDonagh and Andrei Vasilevskiy. But mostly let's dive into McDonagh a little bit, because I talked yesterday that this was a guy that I think the Lightning need, especially with all those holes on the blue line because of the injuries. He does so much for this team. He's defensively sound. He's so stable. He makes good plays. And even though he maybe lost a step since round one of Ryan McDonagh on the Lightning a few years ago,
right?
Well, he still makes up with it with awareness, positioning. It's just good to see him back on the ice. And then Andrei Vasilevskiy didn't get a lot of work last night, but I felt like he did make a couple of really good saves.
He did.
So I mean, we're about to talk about massive injuries and, are we cursed? But I will say, I think it was good last night to see maybe a couple other key guys coming back in the lineup.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a good positive. I think for me, it's just converting on the power play without the stars. Without Kuch, without Hagel, and getting it done anyway. I think that's huge for this team. And we've kind of seen the power play struggle. It's been kind of hot and cold lately, but maybe you want 2 out of 4 of those, but without your stars, getting 1 is an accomplishment in my book.
Yeah. Hey, and you did mention that the goal was win 2 games out of 3.
That's true.
So, hey, we can still reach the goal, Greg.
That's true. We can get there.
Back to reach the goal. How about a plus? What's a plus that you would give?
That was my plus.
Oh, okay. Did I just miss that whole thing?
Yes.
Did I miss the whole thing about that being your plus?
Yes.
Okay. It's early. I was also looking up Ryan McDonagh's stats. I'm sorry. That was me not being a good listener for you.
That's okay. It's early. I get it.
Yeah. My minus is going to be goaltending. And not Andrei Vasilevskiy goaltending, but opponent's goaltending.
Oh,
Because how many times does it feel like the Lightning have played well over the last little bit and just run into a brick wall in terms of goaltending? We've talked Ilya Sorokin because the Lightning always seem to lose against the New York Islanders for whatever reason. And last night it's Anton Forsberg. It seems like the Lightning at times this year have run into some really strong goaltending performances from like random guys. And I think somebody on Reddit just said, it's like, why is this always us? Like, why do we always make like the guy who's played like 8 games and has like an 887 save percentage look like, you know, the second coming of Martin Brodeur?
Yeah.
And you know what? Stick taps to Anton Forsberg last night because I do think, look, the Lightning had a lot of shot volume. Yeah. And I know like there's some people questioning. It's like, well, you know, they never really, they had a lot of shot volume, but maybe not necessarily any dangerous shots. I would still, you know, disagree with that and said Anton Forsberg made a couple of really good saves that maybe, you know, a goaltender playing average or not necessarily on his A game wouldn't stop. So
completely agree. In the third too.
Yeah.
Like, there were a lot of really good opportunities. I thought he made a couple of really good saves.
Yeah, I'm with you there 100%. So it just always seems to happen to us, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Of course, the other big minus we talked about at the top of the show, more injuries to talk about, a hit that leads to Anthony Cirelli leaving the game. We're going to dive into that a little bit more. Plus, moving forward without Brandon Hagel, which it sounds like we might have to do for the next week or so. More coming up when Locked on Lightning returns. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Guys, it's one of my favorite sporting events of all time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive, the biggest World Cup draw ever. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually a nightmare. That's why the Game Time app is clutch. It finally gives fans like you and I a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats for the biggest games. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. All you have to do is open the app, and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. All you need to do is pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print, no searching for seats that are slightly different than the other ones. And the seat view picture is a game changer. You can literally see what the pitch looks like from your exact seat before you buy. And the best part, the thing I love about Game Time the most, it shows you your all-in price up front. So there's no last-minute surprises at checkout, no random $100 fees or maintenance fees that pop up right before you go to pay. What you see is what you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and tickets for pretty much anything with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Game Time. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. We're back on Locked on Lightning. Nick Morgan here alongside Greg Steven. And Greg, let's just start adding in a section of rundown for the next however many shows that just said talk about injuries.
Yeah.
Because we have more to talk about. This time it's Anthony Cirelli, a guy who at certain points this season we said had been the MVP of the team. I think, you know, at certain points this season. Injured on what I would call is kind of a freak play. Anthony Cirelli coming into the zone. This was early in the third period. Skates in, doesn't have the puck, sort of turns on a dime and winds up smacking face to face into Kevin Fiala, who's streaking down the ice. It's gets up, hunched over, and goes straight to the locker room. Doesn't play again. John Cooper said after the game, "We'll see." Greg, let's start with the hit itself. What
Yeah.
did you see on that play?
Yeah, this is an accident entirely. I don't think this is a Fiala malicious play or even an intention to hit, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like nothing for Fiala from me. That being said, these kind of hits suck. If you've ever played ice hockey competitively, taking these when you're not expecting them, brutal. And you can kind of see his head snap back a little bit at the end, and definitely a little concerning. Definitely concerning. He stayed down. He wasn't down super extensively, but he was down, right? I mean, he didn't look comfortable. So that's not a great sign. Yeah, that's a tough one because, again, it's not like anyone did anything wrong. It's not even like Cirelli did anything wrong. He was just he was just kind of puck watching, and that's fine because he's trying to figure out where the puck's going to go. And yeah, just like you said, an accident, a freak accident, and what are you going to do? It's the Lightning. This has become the norm.
It's just something we've come to expect.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. It's nothing from either player's end. Cirelli kind of did a sudden change to kind of backtrack. Fiala was coming. They were both puck watching. In fact, if you watch that clip, you can actually see like Fiala kind of stand over Cirelli a little bit and trying to see like, is he okay? Or, maybe telling him it's like, I didn't see you or whatever happened, but it looked like he was kind of checking on him a little bit. Yeah, I'm with you. I know like some people online were kind of questioning the hit. I don't think there's anything malicious there.
No.
The Seth Jones one was far more reckless than Fiala last night, but it does bring up the question, Craig. We're already down Brandon Hagel, who John Cooper said before the game is probably, he said probably not coming back before the Christmas break.
Right.
Which also makes you kind of wonder if maybe there's something more long-term there. And now you're without Cirelli. So there's two guys that have kind of been anchors on your second line now injured. I mean, is it just me, Greg, or are these holes getting maybe a little too hard to fill?
Yeah, I mean, look, didn't they start this game down an entire forward?
And that's the other thing. Nikita Kucherov was on the roster for this game, was set to play. Like the Lightning turned in the roster. Nikita Kucherov was on it. Apparently, according to some of the Lightning beat writers, it was a decision made, I think, like as they were taking pregame warmups, that Nikita Kucherov was not going to play.
I want to say something, but I don't want to be weird. I think isn't it not strange how many illnesses Kucherov gets?
I mean,
it's like his third of the year, I think.
I don't know. I have some coworkers that seem to call out sick once a week. So no.
Look, if he's sick, he's sick. It's just I don't know, man.
Are we diving into Nikita Kucherov's immune system? Is this how it's going now?
We're starting a conspiracy.
No, yeah.
No. I mean, it's tough. I mean, when you lose a guy instantly as you're taking the ice, it's not wonderful. And as your best player, even worse.
Yeah.
Are the holes becoming too much to fill? I would say, yeah. I mean, imagine if McDonagh and Vasi didn't come back last night. I think this is a different game, to be honest with you. Yeah. And I want to go back a little bit to Gage and Dominic James, because I actually thought they played really well.
Yeah.
You could kind of see that they were trying their best to be, we got to step up. Even when they zoomed in on them on the bench at one point, you could see them like fist bump each other, Sure.
Yeah.
And you could just see they were fired up. They're like, this is our chance. Let's shine here and let's fill these holes. And despite their best effort, they did lose, right? So I think now you lose more guys. Who are you putting in those slots? And Gage has had a lot of time to adjust to this team. Dominic James has started to have a lot of time to adjust to this team, and they do their roles well. But beyond them, I don't know what more you can really do other than call up more AHLers and pray,
Yeah. I'm with you there. I mean, I think my only caveat of that is the quality of players that you're losing. With all due respect to like Dominic James and Gage Goncalves,
Yeah.
like they're not on, Anthony Cirelli's level
No.
as a player, and
Nor Kuch's.
nor Kuchen. Well, find me more than 5 players in the league that are at or above the level Nikita Kucherov plays at. I think that's a little bit hard. I can see your wheels turning. You're trying to think of those 5 players right
No,
now.
I just wanted to say Macklin Celebrini so badly.
Okay, yeah. Sit back down. No, like, and that's the thing is the Lightning have had so many players step up this season.
Yeah.
We talk about look at Darren Radish coming out of nowhere, when Victor Hedman is hurt. Look at Destu playing a role that, I mean, for God's sakes, Greg, like we barely knew who he was when the season started.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you look at Dominic James coming in his first professional season and playing as well as he has. The Lightning have had so many great players step up, but the problem is that look, their ceiling is not Nikita Kucherov's ceiling,
right?
Or quite frankly, at right now, Brandon Hagel's ceiling, and you're asking some of these players who you're asking to step up to play, I think, a little bit more than they're capable of. Right. And look, you can't, with all due respect to these players, because they're really good. They're really good players. I love having them on the team. They play a fantastic role, and they played that role well for them this season. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to rely on, a Dominic James, Gage Goncalves for your depth scoring, instead of Brandon Hagel and Anthony Cirelli, you've got a problem on your hands.
Yeah.
So it's getting to the point where it's just starting to be a little bit too much for me.
Yeah. Completely agree with you. I think that's why it's so important that we saw Bjorkstrand score a goal last night.
Yeah.
Because he's the guy that you kind of expect in that third slot to score goals. And actually thought the goal was pretty fantastic. He had a pretty good effort on that goal. But anyway, I digress. Yeah.
And Nick Paul is another one that you want to see step up. And I thought Nick Paul,
right. And I feel like he has
a great game last night, but
yeah, I was going to say he hasn't touched this sheet a ton, but again, he was out for so long. I think he's got space to adjust still.
Yeah, we talked about it. He had that 5-game point streak when he first got back in the lineup, and now just 1 point since that streak ended. So there's definitely more in the tank from here. You want to see people step up. The other big thing, Greg, is that last night's loss puts the Lightning below 500 at home this season. That's weird because Benchmark International used to be one of the hardest places in the NHL to play. You go there a lot. I'm going to ask you if you notice any difference in the energy in the crowd, or just any difference in the level of play that you're seeing while you're there, while the Lightning are on the ice. Let's have that conversation when we come back in just 1 second. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays, move fast. One big play and suddenly the entire game feels completely different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And trust me, live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. Maybe a receiver gets hot, maybe a defense tightens up, or there's a big turnover and momentum completely flips on its head. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment live as everything unfolds. The live spreads and money lines adjust instantly when there's a big play. Player props update as guys heat up. So if Bucky Irving's tearing it up on the ground, you're going to be able to bet new bets on his stat lines. You can also bet on things like next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. You can also pull out your phone and download the FanDuel app straight to your phone so you can tag in on the action wherever you are. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Back on Locked on Lightning, Nick Morgan here alongside Greg Steven. And Greg, here's a statement I don't think you and I are used to talking about. Lightning are a sub 500 team at home this year. Last night's loss drops them to 8-9-0 at home this season.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a weird kind of statement in and of itself, right?
This
is Lightning we're talking about.
I know, and that's 4 straight at home losses, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, brutal stuff. Something we're not used to seeing. You know what I think really put a bad taste in my mouth? Just dropping that home opener this season after being up and playing so well in the beginning and then just choking that. Just a bad totem setter for your newly named arena.
Yeah, I'm with you there 100%. And it felt so fun to start that game because I was watching on TV, but you could feel the crowd through the TV, man. Like,
oh yeah,
it was electric. That first goal, which I think was like less than 2 minutes into the game, the crowd just got into it. It was loud the entire first period, and then once the Senators started coming back, you just kind of felt the air deflating just a little bit. So, Greg, let me ask. You go to a lot of games at Benchmark International Arena.
I do.
Are you noticing any sort of difference in the crowd, in the atmosphere this year as compared to years past?
It's a great question, honestly. And I want to say no, but it's actually, I had a fleeting thought the other day when I was leaving. It feels like there's a lot more support for the opposing teams this season. And there are days, especially and this is, Tampa is a place where a lot of Northerners come, right? So there's a lot of Bostonians down here and, Jersey, all those states, but
yeah, and especially lately because Tampa is what the third fastest growing metro area in the entire USA now. So
like I'm from Jersey, so I only came here for the Lightning, but you go to games like against the Bruins, and it's almost hard to hear a Lightning chant sometimes because the Bruins chants are so loud, and it's all it fires me up sometimes because I want everyone to start cheering for the Lightning, but
sure.
But that would be the only real substantial thing that I would say is different. I think there are a lot of games where I kind of sit there and I'm wondering how or why we could maybe energize the crowd a little more and overtake all those away fans.
Like from an on ice perspective, or
no, just like as an audience. And
okay, so like so it's like an in-game sort of entertainment sort of thing.
Yeah, I, like for example, if I had the power in my voice to start a chant, I would. But I just want to drown out those Boston chants,
Yeah, I'm with you. And
maybe I should bring a megaphone.
There you go. Like let's brainstorm some ways that you and I can go down and just create chaos.
Yeah.
Or just do a live show during the game. Now, the reason I asked that is because I grew up in Nashville, and for years, Bridgestone was the one of you ask players around the league, hardest places to play. And Nashville was one of the top on the list, just because of the acoustics of the arena, the energy of the crowd. Like it felt like a drunken SEC game, as opposed to, a hockey game. Like there's crowd chants. The seats were cheap. The crowd was into it. And then the Predators made the Stanley Cup Finals, and the vibe shifted. And it was suddenly you have, the NHL on NBC people coming down, doing live shows on Broadway. It's like, oh, this is awesome. And then it started becoming sort of a destination instead of a home crowd. Like ticket prices went up. You started pricing out some of the long-term fans. The fans that just, got to see a Stanley Cup final all of a sudden weren't happy with seeing, a team suffer a gritty first round loss again, especially with the roster that they had.
Mhm.
It's like you said, now it's, it used to be the Predators had the toughest home crowd unless you're playing like, let's say like Detroit or Chicago, a place where you're getting a lot of transplants from.
Right.
Now it's like I went home and God, like the Winnipeg Jets played, and there's so many Winnipeg Jets fans that you could hear it throughout the arena when they
Right.
score. Like it's just become such a destination for road fans.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked, because you have, a little bit more context into like the Tampa Bay thing. And I'm just wondering if that's a factor at all. And I'm not saying it is, but I'm just wondering if maybe after 2 Stanley Cups and then 3 straight, losses in the first round, if it's not, if maybe it's not sort of the, help me out with what I'm trying to say. Like,
yeah, it's
like
I
fortress,
think
sound fortress, or
right, exactly. That's exactly what I was basically you worded better what I was trying to say essentially. And
Okay.
I think it's a lot of what you said. It's your team is so successful, and then there begins this expectation, and I think it invites more than just dedicated hockey fans to the arena, because it's like the Lightning are sick. We should go check them out.
Yeah.
And that kind of fills in some spots where maybe you get a more hardcore fan there instead. And then on top of that, this is a transplant city. It is. It's that simple. So many people my age, mid-30s here, that are not from Florida. And you get a lot of different fans for a lot of different teams. Like against Vegas, tons of Vegas fans down here.
Yeah.
Tons of Boston fans. Like half of my friends are from Boston here.
Yeah. Well, Rangers fans.
Yeah, exactly. And all those cities up there, a couple Islander fans, but yeah, I think it is. It's a big part as a transplant city, and the other part is recent success. I think those two work in conjunction to kind of create a less difficult crowd to play in front of.
Yeah. And you know what? At the end of the day, Greg, it all has to do with the team on the ice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, whatever ticket prices are, whatever the context of, history or pricing or, how many fans of who are in the arena, cool, whatever.
Right.
How the game goes and how the team is playing, I think is the biggest impact of how intense your crowd is and how tough your building is to play in. And like, quite frankly, I haven't seen the Lightning really play that level of game at home in a while, where they're just constantly, there's always something to cheer for. And, last night going up 1-0 was a good start, but it was also, like I said, like the Lightning played fine. They checked a lot of boxes, but it wasn't like a game in which you just keep your crowd into it play after play after play.
Right.
And I think that's it. I think there's something missing from the Lightning at home this year. And maybe it is because of all the injuries. Maybe it's just something that, maybe it's just the Lightning need to step it up and play a little bit better. But it's just, I feel like that energy from the team itself hasn't been there for at least a little bit this season.
Agreed with you. And I hope that I'm really hoping that we can get some healing done here, go into the break, take a few days off, and come back and hit the ground running again with a more healthy roster.
Yeah. Let's hope so. Lightning have a big game Saturday against the Carolina Hurricanes.
It's a tough one.
That's going to be a tough one. I thought the Canes are a cup contender, one of the cup contenders. Before the season, Greg, you were not kind to the Hurricanes.
No.
So now here's the proving ground. Like, can the Lightning pull out a win against the Hurricanes and prove Greg right in that they're just overrated trash this year?
Yeah.
Not on the same level of Macklin Celebrini at all.
Not even close.
No. We'll, of course, have more from that game coming up Monday, as well as look ahead to the Blues game. If you guys are listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform, or you're watching us on YouTube, wherever you're doing it, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Not only helps us out with our numbers, but lets you guys know when we have fresh content out for you. Also, be sure to keep tabs on our social media. We're Locked On Lightning on Instagram, TikTok, pretty much wherever you scroll. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Lightning. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Back with a new episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.